Okay, so high on greenhouse gases when you burn it. Remember, the more greenhouse gases you have, the more likely climate change is going to become an issue. Okay? You have to drill for the oil, which destroys habitats, but also if there's an oil spill, that destroys habitats as well. Okay, suffocates fish, suffocates ducks. That's why we have to use the Dawn. You guys have seen the commercials where they're bathing the ducks in Dawn, right? Oil spills. Okay. All right, cool. All right, so advantages. It burns quickly and efficiently. So it's good for, bless you. So it's good for ignition, right? Petroleum is your second highest emitter of CO2. CO2 being a greenhouse gas, which makes climate change worse. It contains a hydrocarbon. How do I explain that? So hydrocarbons are what we call volatile. And when I say volatile, I don't mean that they're violent. I mean that they vaporize very easily. Think about gasoline. If you're pumping your gasoline, you can smell it really easily, right? That's because that liquid is becoming gas really fast. It vaporizes very fast. Okay, that's going to contribute to smog. Later on when I talk about air pollution, I'll explain how that contributes to smog. Okay, so it contributes to air pollution. So increases air pollution. Sorry, the air and the pollution are kind of close to each other. Yes, ma'am. Hydrocarbon. Okay, so hydrocarbon. Hydro and carbon. So carbon with a lot of hydrogens next to it, or bound to it. Okay. So first you have to drill for the oil. Then you have to, once you get the oil, you refine that oil. And then, of course, when you refine that oil, you get the petroleum. Okay, which is the gasoline. Obviously, petroleum can be used for other things. By the way, we use petroleum for making our plastics. We use it for making petroleum jelly. It can be used for other things, but mostly it's used to make gasoline. That's why they call it petro in, like, the UK, because it's petroleum. Okay? Right? So when you drill for oil, obviously there are issues there. Like I said, oil spills can destroy habitats. When you refine the oil, then you're creating some air pollutants that are sometimes carcinogens. Obviously, when we burn the gas in our cars, we produce more CO2, we produce air pollution, all that good jazz. All right, moving on to coal. So this is the highest. So it's number one. Emitter of carbon dioxide. Produces a lot of air pollutant. Nitrous oxide and sulfur dioxide. Those are air pollutants. We'll talk about those next unit. When we extract it, we destroy habitats. And we contaminate water. So coal is obviously mined. That's why we have coal miners. Okay. So a lot of it can be mined underground where you're digging, but most of it nowadays is where we're blowing up mountains. Okay, because mountains have a lot of coal in them. Okay, so when we blow up mountains, obviously that destroys that habitat. And whenever you're blowing something up, you've got all that particulate matter that goes into the atmosphere. Also, it's going to settle into streams, and so you've got some metals, some heavy toxic metals that go into streams and contaminate the water. All right, advantages. It's cheap. It's abundant. What else? It's energy dense. Okay, so there's a lot of energy in a small amount of coal. Okay, whatever you don't have, and I'm writing, there's a reason why I'm writing it. I'm not doing it for my health. Like, I know what the questions are on this, so you should write it if you don't have it. Okay? So, greenhouse gas emission. Is CO2. Air pollutant is usually sulfur dioxide or nitrogen dioxide. This is going to cause acid rain. Okay, so acid rain is caused by SO2 and NO2. Okay, so the way we go about doing this is that we burn the coal. The heat is going to boil water. The steam from the water is going to turn a turbine. The turbine is then going to power a generator, which is then going to produce electricity. Make sure you write this down. If you don't have it, this is like super important. So we burn the coal, boil some water. The steam from the water turns a turbine, which powers a generator, and the generator produces electricity. That is the way that we get from coal, which is a black rock, to what we use to charge our cell phones. Make sure you write this down if you do not have it. I promise you this will be on your test. Make sure you write this down if you don't have it. Alright, next one is natural gas. Yes, go to the restroom. Alright, natural gas. The extraction is called what, Buka? What is the extraction of natural gas called? Fracking. Yes. So hydraulic fracturing. What happens is that a lot of water is pushed into the ground. Okay? It breaks some rock. That rock releases the methane, and then we capture the methane. Okay? This causes water contamination. Uses a lot of water. it can also cause small earthquakes. The advantage is that it's the cleanest. There should not be an I there, sorry. Fossil fuel, which means it emits almost no air pollution. So it's the cleanest fossil fuel, and it is also very abundant. It's a lot of it. During the fracking process, sometimes you release some methane. Remember, methane, first of all, methane is natural gas. Natural gas and methane are the same thing. So when you are fracking for methane, natural gas, sometimes you release some of it, and methane is a greenhouse gas, very powerful greenhouse gas. CH4, yes. Like I said, it contaminates water. If you're using it in your house, you use it for your gas stove. So some people have gas in their homes because they have gas stoves. That's what you would use it for. Okay? Okay, so the extraction process is called hydraulic fracturing. Okay, so you use water to break rock to release methane. That's the extraction process, hydraulic fracturing. We call it fracking. So you're going to blast some water really, really, really strong, like pressure, lots of pressure, blast that water, break that rock, release that methane. In order to use it, just like this one, you burn the CH4, boil the water, the steam turns the turbine, powers a generator, then you get electricity. That's if you get electricity from natural gas, like if you have a gas electricity. You know if you have gas if you have a gas stove. Does anybody have a gas stove at home? Then you have gas in your house. That's how you get your electricity. Okay? The rest of us get it from coal. Okay? Okay, nuclear. I need to see everybody writing. Why are people chilling? What are we doing? I can zoom in. Nobody should be chilling. Because no, you're not going to do this later. Don't even tell yourself that. Keep it real. Don't fool yourself. Mining for the uranium causes habitat destruction. The uranium is not finite. I mean, is finite. Sorry, there's only so much uranium on the planet. That's why it's considered a non-renewable resource.
Is that nuclear?
Yes, this is nuclear. Obviously, we've had some nuclear disasters, although it's actually really, really, really rare. From the cooling towers, you emit some water vapor, which is a very low greenhouse gas. It almost doesn't even matter. Like, it's a very low level greenhouse gas. Uranium is finite. In other words, there's only so much of it. It's not infinite. Infinite means forever, right? Like going on forever. Finite means it's going to run out one day. Uranium is finite. So that is a disadvantage. By the way, this is very expensive. So building a nuclear power plant is extremely expensive. Advantages: no CO2 or air pollutants, which is nice. Uranium gives a big bang for its buck because it has a high density. Okay, it's a high density energy source. So it only takes a little bit. Pollutants, radioactive waste, and that little bit of water vapor.
Water vapor is a pollutant?
I'm sorry?
Water vapor is a pollutant?
Well, it's a greenhouse gas, so let me not call it a pollutant. So greenhouse gas. But remember, water vapor is a very low greenhouse gas. Okay, so as soon as it goes into the atmosphere, it condenses and becomes rain. So it's not an issue. Okay, so same thing here. In this situation, uranium fission produces heat that boils water. Can you almost guess what's going to happen? Steam from the water turns a what? Turbine. Which powers a generator. And then what do you get after that? Electricity. It's almost like each one of these does the same thing. You get heat, boils water, steam turns a turbine, which then powers a generator, which gets you electricity. The next one, biomass, is on kind of, it's like it can be renewable, it can be non-renewable. It depends on how you look at it. All right. So negatives. If you go in your house and you take some wood and you burn it without opening a window, you're going to die. You're going to die of carbon monoxide poisoning. Now, typically, that's not an issue here in developed nations, but in developing nations where all they have is wood and charcoal and animal dung, animal poo to burn, it becomes an issue. This is used heavily in developing countries for cooking. It is potentially renewable because you could always plant the trees again. Obviously, you're going to get a lot of CO2 emitted when you burn wood, and a lot of carbon monoxide. There's some other things like particulate matter. Soot is particulate matter. And I'm not worried about extraction. I think you know how biomass is extracted, like you cut down trees. So depending on where you are, this is renewable. Like if you're here, it's renewable, right? You could just plant another tree. But if we're talking about like Haiti ended up cutting down most of their trees, and so they have a very kind of messed up forest, like it's not really a forest anymore. So that made it non-renewable. Particulate matter. Or soot. Yes, ma'am. Cooking. Cooking. SOOT. We ready? Yeah. All right. Actually, I'll just use this. Okay, so solar. Solar is non-depletable. After you first buy the panels or the mirrors, okay, so after the initial cost, you'll have no more costs. So after the initial cost, there'll be no more costs. The disadvantages is the silicon has to be mined. So in your solar panels, there's silicon and it has to be mined. Anytime you're mining something, you're going to destroy habitats. Another issue is that solar panels only work during the day. So you have to buy a battery. When you buy a battery, batteries have metals. You have to mine for metals. That destroys habitats. When you throw away metals, that contaminates water. And it is also very expensive. Very expensive to own, not to rent. There's a lot of people who have solar panels right now that are renting. But if you wanted to buy a solar panel, they're about $10,000 a panel, and you need about 4 or 5 or 6. So it's very expensive, and you have to really think about it. Is this a good return on my investment? Will it really save on my electrical bill? The pollutants, only from the mining of silicon, and the metals for the battery. I'm pretty sure everybody got the diagram. I'm not worried about the diagram. Hydropower. Hydropower is dams. Sometimes you can have a dam like the Hoover Dam, or you could have it in a river. Okay? So hydropower is cheap, non-depletable, and that reservoir is good for recreation. The issue with hydropower is it disrupts salmon migration. You can get some sedimentation behind the dam. When the water is sitting still, sometimes it emits methane. And then, of course, there's always flooding. Those are some of the negatives. This is the only air pollutant that you're going to get. That sitting water, sometimes methane is produced by anaerobic respiration, decomposition. Because that water is sitting and it's still. So that bacteria will go through anaerobic respiration and produce methane. Methane is a greenhouse gas. Methane is a greenhouse gas. 25 times as strong as CO2. Alright, so how does it work? Water comes in, make sure you write this. Water comes in, turns a turbine, fuels a generator, you get electricity. You guys notice a trend here? Water, turbine, generator, electricity. What else did we not get so I can make it quick? Did we get, so we got geothermal. It's non-depletable. No cost after the installation, but the problem is that the installation is super expensive. It depends on geography. You're not going to get geothermal power everywhere. You have to be close to a hot spring. You have to be, the crust has to be kind of thin because you're getting the energy from the heat from the mantle. It does release hydrogen sulfide. So your pollutant is hydrogen sulfide. Make sure you have this. Uses heat from the mantle to boil water. Steam turns a turbine. Generator, electricity. No, write it down right now. We have a.
I already wrote that.
Huh?
I already wrote it.
Then why are you asking if I uploaded it? Write this down real quick. Make sure you have this stuff down. Yes, please take a picture of both your charts and turn them in. Make sure your mini posters turn in. Hey, make sure you turn in a picture of both of these charts. If you do not turn it in by the time this assignment closes, I don't want it. It will be a 0. Please turn in a picture of both charts.
Does it end today at 3 or?
It ends, you have to look at it.
In the tray?
No, did you already turn it in online? Okay, then you're good. It's number 2. It's number 2. On the announcement for today, it's number 2.